It's 2024 and the world is dominated by disc brakes. So can you believe that some people are still buying high-end rim brake road bikes like the Giant TCR Advanced SL? Now, the owner of this bike, some of you may recognize, and he is going to try and convince us that such a purchase is a wise one. But before we get to this lovely build, you know the drill. Remember to like the video and subscribe to your favorite YouTube channel. And yes, that is us. Right, let's learn a bit more about our guest. It's only Joe Norledge. This former BikeRadar video manager still has an epic neckbeard, rarely irons his clothes, and loves to ride his bike. He's just a skinny boy hill climber at heart, and he has done many a silly BikeRadar challenge with deputy editor Jack Luke. Joe, good to have you back. Where have you been?
Well, these days I'm a freelance filmmaker. I do a lot in the bike industry, but other things as well. I also have 2 kids, 2 lovely boys, and a dog as well called Squid, who likes to do lots of digging.
It sounds like you've got a bit less time to ride.
Indeed, life is very full.
So first up, Joe, let's start with this, the lovely Giant TCR Advanced SL frame with, as we've mentioned numerous times already, rim brakes. So why this one?
I first rode the previous generation of the TCR Advanced SL back in 2019. It wasn't necessarily the lightest, most aero, or most comfortable bike out there at the time, but I felt it was about as good an all-round fast road bike as you could find. Also, the TCR has always been reviewed well by the test team at BikeRadar, so when I decided I wanted a new bike, it was an easy decision to make. This version I have before me is the current model, which is a bit lighter and a bit more aero than the previous version, but it's very similar. You've got the classic frame shapes, integrated seat post, and clearance for 28mm tyres.
So a very high-end frame set this, but as we were discussing off camera a little earlier, not the most expensive frame set on the market.
Yes, a quick word on price. This frame set was by no means cheap. I shopped around and I got mine for about £2,400, right about there I think. But when you compare it to something like an S-Works Tarmac frame set or a Pinarello Dogma frame set, which go for north of, £5,000, well, I think it's a fair bit cheaper than those.
Joe, let's finally get on to rim brakes. Why, oh why did you not go for discs? Come on.
Back when I was riding a lot, hill climbs were my bag. And during hill climbs, weight trumps just about every other factor when deciding which bike to go for. So even though I'm now an older, greyer and much slower father of 2, the idea that lighter is always better is a hard one to shake. Hence, I decided to go for rim brakes. Now I know what you're thinking. As reported by all the cycling media, the Men's National Hill Climb Championships were won by Andrew Feather on a disc brake equipped road bike in 2023. However, Andrew is probably one of the fastest amateur cyclists on the planet when it comes to going uphill. So I suspect his training, talent, pacing and ability to really suffer probably contributed far more than the bike he was riding. And I also suspect he would have won by even more if he'd been riding an equivalent bike with rim brakes. But don't forget to let me know why you think I'm wrong in the comments.
We were chatting on the way over here and you haven't got much time to actually ride this thing now.
Yeah, I've mentioned it lots of times already, but I'm pretty pressed for time these days. So I wanted a bike that would be easy to work on when it comes to home maintenance. Now, of course, disc brakes offer far better stopping performance, but speaking from experience, they're nowhere near as simple to maintain.
I'd argue against that.
Rim brakes probably need more regular maintenance, but it's usually a 10-minute job rather than a 30-minute job, and it doesn't require me to use a syringe.
What are you doing to your disc brakes?
Finally, bike brands aren't spending as much R&D cash on rim brake bikes these days, which means they haven't fallen victim to some of the perhaps less desirable traits of the modern day road bike. And by that I mean hiding every cable within the frame.
I mean, you should just buy a Athos. Done. Sorted.
I mean, internal everything may make me 0.001% faster over 40 kilometers, but it will probably take me 110% longer when it comes to working on my bike.
Joe, let's come on to looks now, because honestly, I think this thing is stunning.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to come out with a controversial opinion now. I think rim brake bikes look far better than their disc-equipped counterparts, and that includes Liam's Athos.
Rude.
Now, you could be forgiven for thinking I sound like a nostalgic Luddite who should have gone out and bought himself something far more appropriate for his age and ability, perhaps a mid-range gravel bike. So you probably shouldn't listen to me, but hear me out. While everyone likes to say they buy a dream bike purely on its performance or mechanical merits, I'm pretty sure, even though it's not cool to admit, a large proportion of most people's buying decisions comes down to looks and marketing, and I definitely count myself in that group. With its classic lines, rounded tubes and relatively subdued paint job, I think my TCR looks absolutely amazing. And that will probably motivate me to get out on a cold Sunday morning more than anything else. Another controversial opinion from me, it may not be as fast as the Cervelo S5 that won the 2023 Tour. However, with its bulging shapes, proprietary standards and all that aero optimization, I think the Cervelo S5 looks pretty rubbish. Sorry, Cervelo.
Not endorsed.
Again, it's not cool to admit, but nothing kills the motivation more than having a bike you think looks a bit rubbish, even if it is really fast.
Onto the Groupset now, Joe, because this will please so many people.
Yeah, there's no doubt Campagnolo Super Record is an indulgent choice for almost any build. After all, Shimano 105 is good enough for most situations. However, I wanted to keep the weight low while keeping the build 100% mechanical. So no beeps or batteries, just a comforting clunk of cables and frictions. And for me, that meant Super Record was the way to go.
It really is quite a clunk as well.
I'm also a fan of the deep contoured shape of the Campagnolo hoods and still like the thumb actuated downshift lever. It's not for everyone, but I feel I can get more precise shifting when the shift levers are totally separate like they are on mechanical Super Record. Again, a lot of my decision came down to looks, and I love the more organic appearance of mechanical Super Record. So for my dream bike, it was the only way to go.
Moving on to the wheels, Bora Ultra 35s. Well, they are quite an old school choice, Joe.
Yes, they're not particularly wide or aero, but in this case, I felt they complement the overall build perfectly. And coming in around 1,360 grams, they're plenty light enough for carbon clinchers.
Plus, let's be honest, the stickers do match the bike. Come on.
Yes, and surely that accounts more than anything else.
Oh yeah.
For tyres, I went with a set of 25mm Michelin Power Cup Competition 4s with the lovely tan walls. Yes, 25mm tyres is a really strange choice in 2024. Old habits die hard, and the hill climber in me still wanted something fairly lightweight. And I think they also size up really nice on the Bora Ultra 35s.
And the rest of the finishing kit, what have we got going on here?
So the rest of the finishing kit comes from old BikeRadar hill climb builds. So once again, it's all lightweight stuff with plenty of carbon.
And the weight, mate, what's this coming in at?
The weight, just about bob on the UCI minimum weight limit at 6.92 kilograms, which is perfect for all of that UCI racing I won't be doing. So that's enough from me. Let's ask you a question. What do you think of the build?
Well, I really love these things. I rode the a lesser frame set at Paris-Roubaix, not when I was racing it, obviously, but for that sportive come ride, I found this thing to just be instantly comfortable and brilliant in the corners, and I spend far too much time on Facebook Marketplace looking at dropping about $2,000 for one of these. I absolutely love the fact that you've gone for a mechanical Super Record Groupset. The purist in me loves it. You've matched it with a beautiful set of wheels, and you've got stupid gearing that you can't push, which is just brilliant. My one quibble with this is no power meter. How are you measuring the fun that you're having?
Yeah, well, I ride so infrequently these days that I don't run a power meter, and I don't even run a Garmin. You know, that Garmin map was put on when it was built up, and I've never put anything on it. So that's the reason why, because my numbers would be so unremarkable that they are not worth recording.
The last thing, Joe, why have you still got the protective tape on the cranks? It's blue. Come on.
Yeah, sorry, the blue tape is being left on because it's still quite a new bike and I just want to keep it as pristine as possible.
Precious. Okay, so what are you actually going to do with this bike apart from look at it?
Yeah, unfortunately, being a father of two, busy being self-employed and a very kind of energetic dog, I've got loads of excuses, so the chances are I'm not really going to be able to ride this bike as much as it truly deserves. And when I do ride the bike, it's just going to be for an hour here or there, cruising around the Mendips with some friends. And yeah, unfortunately, it will not get ridden in the way it deserves by me.
Well, I think we can change that. If this video gets 10,000 likes, which is probably not going to, then Joe here has agreed just now to come back and do a full hill climb season. How about that, Joe? You can agree to it. It's not going to get 10,000 likes, don't worry.
Yes, no, I'm definitely going to do it.
Now, if you do miss Joe in his pomp and you want to see him doing some hill climbing, then make sure you check out all of these lovely videos where Joe sets some ridiculous power numbers. As ever, remember to like the video properly and subscribe for more, and we will see you next time.
Goodbye.
Oh, you got to do a kick.